Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the LEA Special Education Point of Contact monthly webinar for November. My name is Tiffany Ingram, and we are going to get started momentarily. For those of you who are now, some of you are still connecting, I see, to our sound, but make sure that you, in your Handouts tab on your right-hand side of the GoTo webinar panel, you will see a drop-down Handouts, and you will be able to download a copy of this presentation to have for the near future. I'm going to share with your school teams after our call today. And of course, this will also be posted to our webinar and our website in the next few days. So our Handouts tab will have a PDF version of our presentation today. We are going to start off with the agenda. We've already done our introductions. We will have updates from our and reminders from our policy team. We will also review our IDEA monitoring reminders and updates. You'll hear from our transportation team. They'll be providing updates in that area as well. And we will close out with announcements and reminders from our teaching and learning division. I am going to kick the webinar off and turn it over to Christy to start us off.
Good morning, everyone. This is Christy Weaver-Harris. I'm the Policy Manager in OSSE's Division of K-12 Systems and Supports in the Office of Special Education. I'm going to talk a little bit about what's been going on in policy lately. Next slide, please. On November 2nd, OSSE issued revisions to the IDEA Part B provision of FAPE guidance for the 21-22 school year in consideration of recently released guidance from the U.S. Department of Education. So this is our guidance that we released at the start of the school year this year to provide guidance to LEAs on medical exemptions for students with disabilities, compensatory services, compliance, and flexibilities, topics like that. So we have actually revised that guidance and reissued it on November 2nd. So the U.S. Department of Education on September 30th issued new guidance called the Return to School Roadmap Development and Implementation of IEPs. I very, very strongly encourage you to review that guidance. It is the reason why we have revised our guidance, because the U.S. Department of Education's guidance is less definitive about when compensatory services must be considered, and it suggests broader circumstances in which compensatory services may be appropriate. So, for example, our previous guidance stated that LEAs must consider compensatory services when a student did not receive any services at all, while the U.S. Department of Education's guidance suggests that compensatory services may be considered to address any failure or inability to provide appropriate services. So one important quote that I want to share from the U.S. Department of Education's document is that they said, quote, "It will be critically important for IEP teams to make individualized decisions about each child's present levels of academic achievement and functional performance and determine whether and to what extent compensatory services may be necessary to mitigate the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic on the child's receipt of appropriate services." So their guidance is really pretty broad about when compensatory services may be appropriate. So as a result of that guidance, we have rescinded questions 8 and 9 in the guidance. And again, I strongly encourage you to review the new guidance from the U.S. Department of Education. Make sure that your IEP teams are considering the impacts of COVID-19 on both student performance and student service needs now, like moving forward when you're reviewing IEPs, and also consider whether you need compensatory services to address historical loss of services. If you have any questions about this, please contact me or my team. Both my email and my team's general contact is on the screen. Next slide, please. So as a reminder, the 2020-21 annual special education parent survey is open. OSSE is asking for your help in distributing this online survey to parents. So the purpose of this survey is to gather information on whether and how schools support parent involvement in IEP team meetings and decisions. All responses are confidential. We collect this information and report a summary of the results to the U.S. Department of Education as part of the Annual Performance Report, or APR, as required by IDEA. This is a survey that we send out every year. In the past, we have sent out this survey directly to parents. via mail. This year, we are not mailing hard copies to parents' homes. We are asking LEAs to include some language either in an email to your schools or in your school newsletter. That sample language that we've developed is available on our website. It is also translated into the top 6 languages. The survey itself is via SurveyMonkey and is also translated in the top 6 languages. When a parent goes to take the survey, there's a drop down in the upper right where they can select their language. We also have direct links to each of those languages on our website that you may use to communicate with your parents. We have some additional resources on our websites to help LEAs in schools in communicating about the survey with parents, including, like I said, parent communities like sample language that you can use and graphic flyers. We have a QR code. We have, like I said, like a graphic like flyer that you can email to parents. So to access those resources, please visit OSSE's website shown here, and I will drop that link in the chat. If you have any questions about this, please contact me or Brittany Patrick at brittany.patrick@dc.gov. Again, we're asking LEAs to help us in disseminating this survey to parents directly. So please try to include this in communications with your parents. I believe that's everything for me. Next slide, please.
Yep, that's it for you, Christy.
Okay, great.
And you're going to drop the survey link in the chat for the group here so they can.
For sure.
Perfect. Thank you so much. We are going to transition to hear from Karen, and she will be providing our IDEA monitoring reminders and updates.
Thank you, Tiffany. Good morning, everybody. This is Karen Morgan Donaldson from IDEA Monitoring and Compliance. Next slide, please. Just have one slide for everybody today, and this is just a reminder about our upcoming monitoring and compliance activities. We have one remaining monitoring activity for this calendar year. Child find monitoring for 3 to 5-year-old students only will take place no later than the end of this month. And then we have child outcome summary in January of 2022. And then in May, we will be completing our specific conditions monitoring and secondary transition and reevaluation. The monitoring around those is for quarter 2 and quarter 3. And then June 2022, we have our child outcome summary. And then in July, we will be finishing up with our initial evaluation monitoring with a focus on 3 to 5-year-old students. If you have any questions, feel free to put anything in the chat or the question box. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Karen. I'm going to turn it over to Dawn, and she'll be providing some reminders for our early childhood special education.
Good morning. My name is Dawn Hilton. I am the 619 coordinator with the Division of K-12. Today, I wanted to share a few reminders related to early childhood special education. This school year, OSSE will continue to monitor the timely and accurate documentation of the initial provision of specialized instruction, transfer of referrals, and the child outcomes summary entry and exit data. Should you receive notification of any untimely or incomplete actions, I ask that you address these tasks immediately. As a reminder, the initial provision of specialized instruction must be documented in SEDS for students under the age of 6. It is expected that the provision of specialized instruction is consistent with the first date of stage 5 enrollment, as you are required to provide specialized instruction on the first day the student attends. For students deemed eligible for special education services later during the school year, the provision of specialized instruction should be consistent with the first day the IEP is implemented. In both situations, the LEA has 5 days to document these services and SEDS. Specific information about the requirements and process of documenting the initial provision of specialized instruction can be found in the Dear Colleague letter and tracking the provision of specialized instruction presentation links available on this slide. The transfer of Part B referrals between LEAs and the notification of Part C transition referrals received from Strong Start early intervention is an ongoing occurrence throughout the year. All transferred referrals must be documented in SEDS within 3 days of receiving notification of an existing referral. The date of notification is the referral date. The new LEA should begin making reasonable efforts to obtain consent to evaluate within 10 days of receipt. As a reminder, please revisit all past correspondence related to the transfer of referrals and confirm that the appropriate documentation of each referral is in SEDS. For more information about this process, please use these links on the slide. Lastly, the Child Outcome Summary cost entry data is due within 90 days after a child begins his or her pre-kindergarten special education programs. As we near 90 calendar days since the start of the current school year, please be sure to update entry data in DC CATS for students who began their program at the start of the 2021-2022 school year. OSSE will complete one of 2 data checkpoints in January of 2022. Here is a link to the available resources found on OSSE's website. If you have specific questions, please send an email to the OSSE cost FAQ at dc.gov email address, or you can email me directly at dawn.hilton1@dc.gov, and my contact information will be at the end of this presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dawn. As always, if folks have questions as our presenters go through their slides today, feel free to put them in the questions in the chat box. We are actively answering questions as we go through our presentation today. We will now transition to hear from our transportation team to provide some updates. I'm going to turn it over to Doug.
Good morning, everyone. Douglas Johnson, OSSE DOT data team, and we are responsible for being administrators for TOTE. So we'll go over these transportation updates today. Thank you. Next slide, Tiffany. So recently, internal, we've been reaching out to schools, identifying non-riders, and what we noticed with a lot of the information we were receiving from the schools is that many of the students, a large majority of students weren't riding because due to exposure to COVID-19. And we weren't being notified of some of the students being exposed to COVID, so we were still going out to transport these students. So we just wanted to cover some transportation and notification protocols for this process. So on this slide, we'll go over that process right now. So OSSE DOT must be notified immediately and suspend transportation services when a school has been notified that a student will need a quarantine as a result of exposure or suspected exposure or symptomatic or positive cases of COVID-19. Students who receive a positive test while in school and have COVID-19 symptoms or who have been confirmed to have COVID-19 ought to be picked up by their parent or guardian. So it's under no circumstance that we will transport the student home if at school they've done a test while they're in school and they come up positive. We will not come back to get the student. The parent has to find a way to get that student home, or they have to get their student themselves. So under no circumstances can a COVID-19 positive case, exposure, suspect exposure, or symptomatic student be transported by OSSE DOT. So let us know that. Then we'll have to do a trace within our team to see who was handling that route for that day. Just know that you all will have to notify OSSE DOT's Parent Resource Center at 202-576-5000 to temporarily suspend transportation services for a period not to exceed 2 weeks. And then transportation services will be automatically resumed on the date, or you will all have to notify us to say that the students tested negative and they were able to come back to school. You don't have to cancel transportation at that time, but if the student will be out longer than 2 weeks, we would definitely have to probably cancel transportation. If a student will be out of school to exceed 2 weeks or more, notify OSSE DOT's Parent Resource Center, again at 202-576-5000, and inform the LEA representative or the SPARE coordinator or the 504 to cancel transportation services via tote, or you can just reach out to the data team, which is us, if you have any questions on how to cancel transportation. In the event that the school uses notification method, the LEA will have to will be responsible for notifying OSSE DOT when transportation service should resume. So just make sure you contact us to let us know, when you suspect the student to return to school. And also here at OSSE DOT, if you have any questions, we have our point of contact here, Ms. Donisha Cruz of the Parent Resource Center. She's a manager. Just please email her once you find out if a student has been exposed to COVID-19, donisha.cruz@dc.gov, or again, you could contact the Parent Resource Center to contact Ms. Cruz at 202-576-5000. So again, it's just important to let us know if a student has been exposed at any time to COVID-19, so we can, go through the correct protocols in that nature. Next slide, Tiffany. Thank you. And also LEA reimbursement. If by any chance any school has been transporting a student due to the lateness of the routes that we occurred throughout the school year so far, or anything that's not a fault of the LEA, just make sure that you know that you are eligible for LEA reimbursement if you have transported the student at the for a period of time throughout the school year due to anything outside of your purview. So just make sure you can just reach out to us if you need any information or any assistance with the LEA reimbursement form. We'll gladly be of assistance to you to make sure you get reimbursed for the funds of transporting the students to school. Next slide. And again, when going through the LEA reimbursement process, you have certain forms that we have to have. The Form W-9, certification form, attendance record in school, and proof of mileage, and then an invoice if you had like a contract or anything of transporting to school, and also, proof of payment. And I will upload that information to a secure location and box through that process. And again, if you have any assistance needed or any verification, email should be sent to dot.data@dc.gov, which is our team, and we'll assist you from that point on. Next slide, please. And also parent reimbursement. If the parent has taken on responsibility to transport the student due to any bus issues or anything out of the LEA's handling, with the student is transferred to the school and their records wasn't able to see by the new home LEA school, then the parent was transporting, we'll do the same thing for them with parent reimbursement, transportation service that occurred as a result of failure on the part of OSSE DOT. So we would gladly be assistance to reimburse the parents. And again, just have them reach out to the Parent Resource Center if they have any questions at 202-576-5000, or they can reach out to the data team at 202-576-5520. And it's a link here as well if the parents needed the form or any information on parent reimbursement. Next slide, Tiffany. And again, we have trainings. Our last training for 2021 will be December the 1st. So if you have any new coordinators or any coordinators that may need a refresher in tote with submitting transportation requests, we had a training right now that's going on today. And again, our last training is December the 1st, and you can register here by using the link on the slide. And again, if you need to reach us at any point throughout the week or throughout the day, we're here from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., Monday through Friday. And the number is 202-576-5520. Or if you need to email us, it's dot.data@dc.gov, and we will respond to your email in a timely manner. Thank you so much. And if you have any questions, I will answer them as the rest of the presentation goes along. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Doug. We are now going to transition to hear from Jennifer. She's going to be providing us some reminders and announcements from our teaching and learning team.
Thanks, Tiffany. I'm just really excited to talk to you about some upcoming and ongoing professional learning opportunities and resources, and to give you a heads up about the upcoming Teaching and Learning Bulletin, in which we'll celebrate Inclusive Schools Week. Next slide, please. First, I just want to say thank you to the educators. That includes teachers, leaders, related service providers who are engaged in the ongoing Foundations of Special Education series. I've included some of the LEAs here that are participating since the good news is, since I shared this list with Tiffany and with the team here that's presenting today, even more educators from other LEAs have joined us. And so if you're on the call today, thank you so much for being engaged in this series. Really appreciate working with you every week to improve outcomes for our students with disabilities. Next slide, please. I want to point out too that coming in December, we'll be launching the first micro-credential for our Foundations of Special Education series. And that micro-credential will be an IEP meeting observation and reflection exercise. It's a performance-based assessment that educators, in which educators will observe and reflect upon IEP development and the facilitation of the IEP meeting. If you participate in the coursework that's ongoing and you complete this this micro-credential, you will be able to earn a badge from Digital Promise. And so I'm very excited to say we have about 35 participants who are on track to complete the first 2 courses and engage in the upcoming micro-credential opportunity. There will be more information forthcoming about the micro-credential in a future teaching and learning bulletin. And of course, I will always share updates with you here. Next slide, please. So it's time to register for the next chunk of content for the Foundations of Special Education series. I want to point out a connection here between the upcoming training and something that Christy mentioned earlier. You know, this updated guidance from the Department of Education around the provision of FAPE is leaning hard onto individualization and using data to make decisions that are individual to the student. And so I really would like you to I'd like to encourage you to consider that course 3, which is now open for registration and is focused on the assessment instruction cycle, is useful beyond developing IEPs, but is useful for accelerating recovery, for making determinations about whether or not compensatory services are needed. And so I really would like to invite you to share this upcoming training series with your staff, your colleagues, and with your general education peers and staff members in your LEAs, because everyone needs to be able to engage in the assessment instruction cycle to serve all of our students. I'm very happy to report that we have had quite an uptick in the participation of general educators in our special education focused content. And I want to just take a moment to appreciate the special educators on this call, because the general educators I have spoken to who are now taking more interest in building their capacity to serve students with disabilities have said that during remote learning, when they didn't have you and your special education staff to lean on, they really learned, well, not to lean on, you know, face-to-face in person, they really learned how much they needed to develop themselves in addressing learner variability. And so I just really want to let you know that you're appreciated anew. You may already know that, but folks are really understanding that all kids are all our kids and we all need to be prepared to serve them. Your face-to-face support was missed, and I'm sure it's appreciated anew now that you're back together again. So you can see that there are 4 courses or 4 modules in this course. The dates are provided for you. Feel free to pass this along. And please save the dates for course 4, which is evidence-based instructional methods. Also very appropriate to share with general education and special education staff. Next slide, please. Of course, our friends at School Talk will be offering another opportunity to participate in secondary transition one-on-one. This final round of training for the fall will kick off next Tuesday at 3:30 p.m. and we hope that you will join us. Next slide, please. I also want to call your attention to the fact that the Teaching and Learning PD Bulletin for December will be focused on Inclusive Schools Week, at least part of it. The introduction will be, and linked in the bulletin will be many opportunities that you can share with all of your colleagues that can build capacity among leaders and teachers serving our students to make sure that we can all address the needs of our diverse learners here in DC. So please do, if you haven't signed up or haven't subscribe to the PD Bulletin. Take special interest when you receive the one in early December to celebrate Inclusive Schools Week, which starts on December 6th. And I'm asking you to celebrate with action and to either sign up for courses that will deepen your understanding and application of inclusive practices, or take action by sharing with your general education colleagues. Next slide.
That's all the slides for you, Jen. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
To round things out, of course, if you have missed a webinar, please visit our webpage at the LEA Special Education Points of Contact monthly webinar series. From there, you will be able to watch previous webinars and download the training resources and materials that were shared each month. A recording of this webinar and slides will be posted to the webpage above within 1 week of our webinar. And of course, if we have the handouts tab now, you can download a PDF version of this presentation to get all the links that everyone has included and pointed out for you to review and also share with your teams. And then we also encourage you, when this is posted online, to share these links with your case managers and other teachers, general education, special educators, your school leaders, when this is also posted online as well. Our next BED POC webinar will be December 15th. And feel free to share the link if you want to include other folks from your team who feel like you need to be a part of this monthly webinar series. They can register and be able to have links for the remaining sessions within the series for this school year. We would love for you to complete our survey. I am going to drop the link in the chat as well. We want to hear from you. We want to get your feedback on not only this month's webinar, but how we can improve our webinars in the future for you. So feel free to take time out. This QR code works. You can scan it with your phone. You can use the link in the chat to access our survey on SurveyMonkey as well. I'll leave this slide up while we go to our questions. And I wanted to see if OSSE staff has any questions they may have seen. Christy, I don't know if you've seen any questions or Karen, see any questions that may need to be brought to the group here for discussion.
Pretty quiet on the questions front today, but somebody has asked for links to the guidance that I was referencing. So I'm going to drop in the chat a link to OSSE's updated guidance, and then also to the U.S. Department of Education guidance. And something else to be aware of is that it seems that the Department of Education is committed to continuing to issue guidance on this return to school roadmap. So keep an eye out for that. It seems like they're going to be addressing further topics within this document. With the compensatory services is addressed starting on page 24.
All right. Thank you so much for sharing that information, Christy. And I know there'll be further updates that folks will have to look out for from this as well. Again, thank you all. Thank you so much for attending and continuing to let us know your feedback is very, very important on how we can improve our outreach to you and how we can better support how we communicate with getting information to you all. We want to make sure this webinar is helpful for you and your teams, and we want to ensure that we are improving. So we need data to improve, so please complete our survey. We have some extra time here today, so this is the perfect opportunity to click that link and complete the survey. We want to thank you so much for attending this morning, and wishing you a great Thanksgiving holiday coming up next week, and we will see everyone in December. Have a great rest of the afternoon.